The 2026 World Cup is only a month and a half away, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my updated group stage predictions. Now, I did already make a full World Cup prediction video a few months ago, but obviously that was before the playoffs, and obviously the playoffs did not go as some of us expected.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they...
Let's not talk about it too much. But now that the playoffs are over, we now know all 48 teams that will be competing in the World Cup. So I thought it's time to do my updated group stage predictions. Now, I will be releasing my knockout stage predictions in a part 2 to this video, so stay tuned for that video. It will be uploaded next week. And obviously, if you've been enjoying all the World Cup content recently and all the World Cup content that's still to come, remember to subscribe to the channel. I'm almost at 8,000 subscribers and I can't do it without you guys. But without further ado, let's get right into these predictions. Starting off with Group A, we have Czech Republic, Mexico, South Africa, and South Korea. First things first, in my last group stage predictions, I did predict that Denmark was the most likely team to get into this group, but obviously Czechia pulled off the impossible and beat both Ireland and Denmark to advance to the World Cup. And with that being said, I think Czechia are definitely an underrated team and probably a team that could realistically finish near the top of this group. Now, talking about this group as a whole, for me, this is definitely the group of life. I think realistically, any 4 of these teams can finish first, second, third, and fourth. I don't think there's any real favorites, but at the same time, there are 2 countries that did recently perform very poorly in the international break. And those 2 countries are South Africa and South Korea. We're going to start off with South Korea because for me, I think they had a very poor international break. And in my last video, I actually thought South Korea may have a chance to finish decently high in this group. But now my hope for them has completely shattered because those 2 results in the international break, that 4-0 loss against Cote d'Ivoire, and then the game after that 1-0 loss against Austria, were really poor results for South Korea, and they did not perform good in either of those games. But the other team that also had a poor international break was South Africa, and they played 2 matches against Panama. They drew 1, and the other game they lost. Now, South Africa do have some good players. In the attack, they have players like Foster, they obviously have Apolis, Moremi, they have Mbokazi. In the midfield, they have Mokoena, who I'm a big fan of. But in terms of their whole team and mainly their defense, I think that is their biggest problem, and they concede loads and loads of goals. So for that reason, both South Korea and South Africa, I'm not confident in them heading into this World Cup. Now, if we look at the host country in this group, Mexico, I think they had a very good international break. We saw them get that draw against Portugal, and then they got that draw against Belgium. Now, to be fair, both of these results don't look that good on paper as they are both draws, but against 2 of the top 10 teams in the world, that's pretty good results in my opinion. And when you look at a team like Mexico, who were struggling so much at the end of 2025, they went 6 games without getting a single win. If you remember all those friendlies they played against the South American teams, against Japan and South Korea, they couldn't win a single game. But in the recent international friendly and in recent games, I think they've looked much better. So with that being said, my predictions for Group A will be that South Korea will finish in last place, South Africa in 3rd place, Czechia in 2nd place, and Mexico, having the home advantage, will top the group, finishing in 1st place. Moving on to Group B, we have Bosnia and Herzegovina, Canada, Qatar, and also Switzerland. For me, last place is Qatar. There's no doubt that I think Qatar will finish in last place, and I think they'll struggle to even get a point. No disrespect to Qatar, but other than Akram Hafif, who yes, is a very good player, they don't really have anyone else to mention. Obviously, they could get an upset, but for me, I think Qatar will definitely finish in last place. And if we look at a team like Switzerland, I think they're definitely the favorites to finish in 1st place. I feel like Switzerland are a very underrated team. In the international friendly recently, yes, they maybe didn't get the best results, but even if you look at that game against Germany where they did lose 4-3, they were incredible in that game. They were good at holding possession. On the attack, they were phenomenal, and that is a very big strength with the Switzerland team, is their attack. If you look at majority of Switzerland's squad, most of the players do play in Europe's top 5 leagues, and that's a big advantage for them over some of these other teams in Group B. Now, the other 2 teams we have is Canada and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and these are the 2 teams that I think will be fighting for 2nd place. Obviously, Canada are the host country, but Canada have one big problem, and that is injuries. They've suffered from so many injuries, especially in the attacking areas of their team. And another problem with Canada is disciplinary issues. If you look at their recent matches, they get so many red cards, it's crazy. And if they suffer a red card or multiple red cards in this World Cup, that will instantly caused them to drop in this group. Obviously, Bosnia are definitely the team that unexpectedly made it to Group B after beating Italy in that qualifying game. But Bosnia do have a good team, and I feel like they showed in those games that they have a very, very good attack. Obviously, Dzeko is still a very good striker, even though he is in his 40s. Demirovic is a very good striker with Stuttgart, and one of their underrated young attackers, Ali Begovic, he was incredible in those qualifiers, in the playoff games, and I think he could make a real impact in this World Cup. So my final predictions for Group B is Qatar finishing in last place, Bosnia in third place, Canada in second place, which I know I may be a little bit biased, and Switzerland finishing in first place. Moving on to Group C, we have Brazil, Haiti, Morocco, and also Scotland. Now, there are definitely two favorites in this group, and that is Brazil and Morocco. If you look at Scotland, they're a decent team, but most people wouldn't expect them to finish above either Brazil or Morocco. And if you look at Haiti, they're definitely going to finish in last place. I apologize to Haitians, but realistically, Haiti are definitely one of the worst teams at this World Cup. It is their second time ever making it to a World Cup, and with that being said, they are most likely to finish in last place. Scotland, I do think, will finish in third place. Now, I think in the qualifiers, they did incredible to make it straight into the World Cup ahead of Denmark. Obviously, they beat them in that last match day by multiple goals, and it was an incredible performance by Scotland. But realistically, I don't think Scotland have a good enough all-around team. Yes, they have some good individual players. I think they have a great midfield, but I don't think they have a team that's complete enough to possibly challenge Brazil or Morocco for those top two spots. Now, speaking of Morocco, I think Morocco are a very, very strong team. A lot of people in World Cup power rankings are putting them around 8th to 12th place, and I think that's fair. I think they're definitely around that top 10. I think they have a very strong team. I've already mentioned it multiple times. For me, a player I really like in the Moroccan midfield is El Ainaoui. I think he is a fantastic player. We saw how good he was in the AFCON. We see how good he is in the Serie A with Roma. And for me, he could be a difference maker for this Moroccan team. But obviously in the attack, they have players like Ayoub El Kabi, they have Ezel Zouli, they have Raheem Diaz. So they have so many good players in this team. And one area of Morocco's team that I feel like a lot of people always don't expect from them is how strong they are in the defense. In the AFCON, they didn't concede a goal for majority of games they played. They kept so many clean sheets, and I feel like this is a testament to how strong Morocco's defense is. But when you look at Brazil, I think they're definitely the favorite. Under Carlo Ancelotti, yes, in recent games, he has been shuffling the team, shuffling the starting formation a lot, because realistically, he doesn't know what his best formation is, and I feel like he's still trying to figure out what squad he's going to take to the World Cup. But Brazil do have definitely the most complete squad in this group, and they have still a top 5 squad in the world. If you look at their attack, they have some very good attackers. Obviously, their wingers, we all know who they are. They're incredible. But even in the striker position now, they have players like Joao Pedro, they have Igor Jesus, they have Thiago, they even have players like Gabriel Jesus. So in last place, I'm going to go with Haiti. In third place, I'm going to go with Scotland. Second place, I'm going to go with Morocco, even though I do think they could possibly overtake Brazil. For now, I'm going to go with Brazil in first place. Moving on to Group D, we have USA, Turkey, Paraguay, and Australia. I feel like USA are a very, very overhyped and overrated team. No disrespect to the USA, but I don't think they're as good as some people say. We reacted to a CBS Sports power ranking recently, and they put USA in 11th place, ahead of the likes of Belgium, after Belgium just smoked USA into the international break, beating them 5-2. Where's the logic? I don't know. For me, I just think USA are a good team. They have some good individual players, but as a squad, as a team being managed by Pochettino, I just don't think they play the best football, and I feel like recent results have really shown that. But obviously they do have that home advantage, and for that reason, they are definitely going to be one of the favorites to finish near the top of the group. But for me, definitely the favorites should be Turkey. Guys, Turkey are a fantastic team, and their attack for me is definitely a top 10 attack in this World Cup. If you look at their striker in Artukoglu, and then behind them sits Yildiz, sits Yilmaz, sits Arda Güler. These are 3 world-class players, especially Yildiz and Arda Güler. Incredible, fantastic players. They have the speed, they have the passing ability, they have the skill set to get by majority of defenders in the world, and they have the set piece capability. Now, I do think the defense is a concern for Turkey, but with how good their attack is, I don't see any way that they don't finish in first place. Now, between Paraguay and Australia, this is going to be really, really close, because I do think Paraguay have the better team, and I feel like recently they haven't been too bad. But for some reason in the World Cup, Australia always finds a way to get the job done. If we remember in the last World Cup, Australia made it to the round of 16, which no one expected, and the team that they lost to was Argentina, who did eventually go on and win the World Cup. With the passion that they have, that their fans bring, I feel like they will get through this group. For me, whoever finishes in 4th, 3rd, and 2nd is a toss-up between USA, Paraguay, and Australia. But for now, I'm gonna go with Paraguay finishing in 4th place, Australia in 3rd place, USA in 2nd place, and Turkey in 1st place. But realistically, I think that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place could be won by either of these teams. Moving on to Group E, we have Curaçao, Ecuador, Germany, and Cote d'Ivoire. For me, I think Curaçao will definitely finish in last place. And I'm sorry to say it, but I think Curaçao are the worst team in this World Cup. But as for the other 3 positions, I feel like it could be won by either of these teams. Obviously, the favorites will definitely be Germany. And if you look at their squad, you look at how they play football, and you look at teams in the Bundesliga and how good they've been across Europe this year, I feel like Germany and German players are really starting to perform better than how they were performing in recent competitions. If you look at Germany in the last World Cup, they were very, very poor, but I feel like recently they have gotten a lot better. And obviously under Julian Nagelsmann, I do think he is a good manager, and I do think Germany will finish in a respectable position in this group. But we cannot underestimate how good both Ecuador and Ivory Coast are. And if you look at them in recent competitions, they've been very good. In the last international break, both teams were very, very good. In the qualifiers, both teams were fantastic. And a team like Ivory Coast, who in the qualifiers were such a defensive team, they were very, very good defensively. But then you look at them in the AFCON, they were so good in the attack. Players like Amad Diallo, players like Yan Diomande, they were scoring loads of goals, getting assists. So I feel like this Ivory Coast really has the capabilities to score goals, but also defend very well as well. And obviously we all know Ecuador are one of the best teams defensively in the world. They have such a solid back line, and realistically they could finish in this group with 3 draws and still advance to the next round. But with that being said, I'm gonna put Curaçao in last place, Ecuador in 3rd place, Cote d'Ivoire, which may be unexpected, in 2nd place, and Germany in 1st place. Moving on to Group F, we have Japan, Netherlands, Sweden, and Tunisia. I want to start off by talking about Japan because I feel like they had a really, really good international break, and I don't think enough people are talking about them. Japan won both their games against England at home, which is the first Asian team in history to win at Wembley, and the other game was against Scotland, which was a very good result as well. Now, like I mentioned so many times, I do think a lot of people underestimate Japan, and even though they have had a few major injuries within the last half a year, I still think they have a really, really good squad. A lot of their starting 11 play in Europe, they play in the top 5 leagues. We see a lot of Japanese players in the Bundesliga, and they perform incredibly. So I think this Japanese team could make an argument that they could finish in 1st place. But obviously the Netherlands are a very, very strong team as well. In the international break, we saw them get a great result against Norway. They won 2-1, and I think Netherlands have a really good squad. But one concern I have for Netherlands is their defense, because I feel like their defense and some of their defensive players haven't been performing good this season. If you look at players like Dumfries in the Serie A, he hasn't been performing that good with Inter, and he hasn't been playing for a lot of the season due to injury. If you look at Van Dijk with Liverpool, he also hasn't been that good. And one of their other center backs, Van de Ven, he's been horrible with Tottenham, and Tottenham look like they are going to get relegated. So I do think that is definitely an area of concern for the Netherlands. But for me, those 2 teams are definitely better than the other 2 teams in Sweden and Tunisia. Tunisia, for me, just haven't been good in recent competitions. In the AFCON, I thought they were very disappointing. In the recent international break, we saw them draw against Canada and Haiti, which are 2 poor results for Tunisia. And if you look at Sweden, on the other hand, in the qualifiers, they didn't even get a single win. They couldn't even win 1 game out of their 6 qualifying games. And the only reason why they're here is because they made it to the playoffs through the Nations League. And surprisingly, they did end up winning in the playoffs to make it to the World Cup. So for this group, and this may be a little bit unexpected, I'm going to go Sweden finishing in 4th place, Tunisia in 3rd place, the Netherlands in 2nd place, and Japan, I actually think, could finish in 1st place. Moving into Group G, we have Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and also New Zealand. I'm going to start off with Iran because for me, I just haven't been that convinced with them in recent games that they've played. Obviously, recently, we've seen them play a lot of friendlies, but the results in these friendlies have not been good at all. We've seen them lose against Nigeria. We saw them get draws against Uzbekistan, against Cape Verde, and we also saw them lose against Russia. But I do think they will finish above New Zealand because for me, New Zealand are one of the poorer teams in this World Cup. No disrespect, but I just don't think New Zealand have a great team. Obviously, they have Chris Wood, who can definitely score goals, but other than that, they don't really have any notable players. So for me, the top two positions in this group will be between Belgium and Egypt, and I do think Belgium definitely have the upper hand. Now, obviously, Belgium over the last decade, they've been very, very wasteful in big competitions. And if you look at them in the last World Cup, they were very poor. They were in the group with Canada, Croatia, and Morocco, and they finished in 3rd place. But if you look at recent matches, Belgium have been good, and I really think that 5-2 win against USA was a very, very good win for Belgium. I think we saw some great things from their attack in that game. I feel like defensively, they were pretty strong, and I do still think that the defense for Belgium is probably their biggest area of concern, but I still think they have a better team than Egypt. Egypt, I feel like, are a decent team, but I don't feel like they're as good as they've been in previous years. I feel like they have an aging squad, and especially in the AFCON, they had the oldest squad out of any other nation. But even with their manager, I'm not sure if they play the best football for a World Cup style tournament. Now, defensively, they have some decent defenders, but in the attack, that is probably their better area of the pitch, with players like Mohamed Salah, with players like Omar Mahmoud. And even though both of these players haven't been having the best seasons in the Premier League, I still feel like that is probably their main outlet. But I don't think they utilize these players to the way that they should be utilizing them. But I still think they are a decent team, so I do think they should be able to qualify out of the group. So my final predictions for Group G will be New Zealand in last place, Iran in 3rd place, Egypt in 2nd place, and Belgium in 1st place. Moving on to Group H, we have Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, Spain, and Uruguay. For me, Cape Verde are definitely the worst team. Now, I do think Cape Verde have some decent players in the attack, and they can definitely score goals, but I feel like their road to qualification to the World Cup was mainly due to other teams around them performing very poorly rather than them actually being a very strong team. But I feel like between them and Saudi Arabia, it will actually be very, very close. Now, I know a lot of people are still hanging on to that Saudi Arabia win in the last World Cup where they beat Argentina, which, to be fair, was a very, very good game, and they were the only team to beat the winners Argentina. But I just don't think Saudi Arabia have a good team, and compared to their team in the last World Cup, I think the team now is arguably even worse. Now, if we look at Uruguay, I feel like they are still a decent team, but under their manager Bielsa, a lot of you will know that I'm not a fan of him. I don't think they play good football under him, and I feel like they have some decent players. They have some well-known players. The main player for me is definitely Valverde. I think Valverde is a really, really good player. With Madrid, he's incredible. He can play in so many positions on the pitch. We see him in the attack, we see him in the defense. He's definitely going to be the most important player for Uruguay in this World Cup. But like I already mentioned, under Bielsa, I don't think they play good enough football to make it far in this competition. And definitely the favorite in this group will be Spain. Spain are definitely one of the favorites to win this whole World Cup. Obviously, they won the Euros in the last edition in 2024, and they were absolutely fantastic. And for me, one of the main reasons why Spain is such a good team is due to their manager, De La Fuente. De La Fuente was managing the youth teams before taking the Spain national team job. He was managing the under-19s, the under-21s, the under-23s. And for that reason, he has actually worked with a lot of these youth players on the Spanish national team. He's worked with them in the youth team, and now he's working with them on the men's team. And I feel like that is a very instrumental part in the way that Spain play football is their youth players. You look at players like Lamine Yamal, you look at players like Fermin Lopez, even a player like Yeremy Pino. In the defense, players like Kubarsi. In the midfield, players like Pedri, players like Gavi. They utilize so many young players, and I feel like these young players paired up with a few of these older, more experienced players, I feel like gives Spain one of the best teams in this World Cup. So for my final Group H predictions, I'm going to go with Cape Verde in last place, Saudi Arabia in 3rd place, Uruguay in 2nd place, and Spain obviously in 1st place. Moving on to Group I, we have France, Iraq, Norway, and Senegal. Guys, I know there's a lot of hard teams in this World Cup, but this group is 100% the group of death. Obviously, France are the favorites, but between a team like Norway, a team like Senegal, who are two top 10, top 15 teams, this is going to be a really, really tough group. Now, the one team that is definitely left out is Iraq. And I do feel bad that they got put into this crazy, crazy group, because the last time they qualified for the World Cup was, what, 40 years ago? A long, long time ago. So I feel bad that they had to get a group which realistically they have almost zero chance to advance from. But if we look at the other teams, starting off with Norway, I'm a big fan of Norway. Obviously, all of you guys will know that I love Norway. I hope Norway make a deep run in this World Cup. And I've said many times that I do think Norway are the dark horses. But with that being said, in recent games, I'm not a fan of how they were playing. I know their manager Solbakken was heavily rotating the lineup. He was trying a lot of different players, but I still feel like at some point you need to know what your best team is, and you need to prepare better for this World Cup. I feel like in those friendlies, yes, I get it, rotate in maybe one of the games, fair enough. But in the other game, you need to try and get a good result. Obviously, they got that draw against Switzerland, which isn't a bad result because Switzerland are a good team. But for a team in Norway who have scored so many goals in the qualifiers, I expect to see more goals in these international friendly games, because realistically, defensively, that is their weakest point. So if they're not able to score goals, I do think they may struggle a little bit. And if you look at a team like Senegal, who I thought were incredible in the AFCON, obviously they won that competition, in my opinion. They were very, very good in recent international friendlies. They have a more well-rounded team, in my opinion, than Norway do. Senegal have some great center backs. They have some great midfielders. Obviously, in the attack, they have players like Sadio Mane, who is probably one of the best African players in history. And for that reason, I think they may actually be able to upset Norway. I feel like a very important part of Senegal's team is also their wing backs, with players like Diatta, with players like Malik Diouf. These are two very, very important players because of their pace and their overlapping capabilities to attack and help out with some of their attackers. I feel like these players may be the most important players on Senegal's team. And obviously France, we all know France are one of the best teams in the world. If you look at their recent games, they were incredible in the international break. They beat Brazil, even being down a man for almost half the game. And then in the other game, they beat Colombia with their second squad. So for my final Group I predictions, I'm going to predict Iraq to finish in last place. Sadly for Norway, I don't want to do this, but I have a feeling they might finish in third place. In second place, I think maybe Senegal, and in first place, I do think will be France. Moving on to Group J, we have Algeria, Argentina, Austria, and Jordan. Now I'm going to start off with Jordan because I do feel like they are definitely the least favorite to advance from this group, but I still feel like they have a really, really good team. They made it to the Arab Cup final. They made it to the last Asian Cup final. And for me, the best part of Jordan's team is their goal scoring ability. I think they have a really, really good ability to score goals, and that's helped them so much in recent competitions. But sadly for the World Cup, for me, I think defense is arguably more important than your ability to score goals. We see a lot of low scoring games in the World Cup, a lot of draws, and for me, I just don't think Jordan have a good enough defense to make it out of this group. Moving on to Algeria, I think they are also a very good team. In the recent international break, we saw them completely smoke Guatemala 7-0, which was a crazy result. But in the AFCON, I do feel like they still left a little bit to be desired. Obviously, under their manager Pektovic, I do think he is a good manager, but I still feel like Algeria should be performing better than they are. I think they have some very, very good attackers. And in the AFCON, I feel like some of those attackers, most notably their main striker Amoura, really struggled, and he didn't even score a goal for the whole competition. When if you look at a team like Austria, they have been very, very good, especially in recent games. Obviously, we saw them get that great 5-1 win against Ghana, and then the game after, they beat South Korea 1-0. And these were two very, very important games for Austria because it showed us that they have the attacking capability to score loads and loads of goals, which they did against Ghana. And then in that game against South Korea, yes, they only scored one goal, and realistically they probably could have scored more, but South Korea had a few chances. They had some good counter-attacking plays, but it showed us that Austria also have that very good defensive capability. And we all know Ralf Rangnick is a good manager. We've seen him manage at the top level before, and I do think he can get this Austrian team to make it at least to the round of 16 in this World Cup. And obviously Argentina, we don't really say too much about them. They're definitely the top 3 best teams in this World Cup, and they should most likely finish in first place. I feel like they have a very well-rounded team. They have a great defense, a great midfield. Their attack is still star-studded. This will be Messi's last World Cup, and hopefully they will make it a good one. But as for my predictions, I'm going to go with Jordan finishing in last place, Algeria finishing in third place, Austria in second place, and the current World Cup holders, Argentina, in first place. Moving on to Group K, we have Colombia, DR Congo, Portugal, and Uzbekistan. This is actually a really tough group. Starting off with Uzbekistan, because I feel like automatically people will write them off finishing in last place, but I definitely don't think you should do that. Under Cannavaro, he's shown that he actually has some decent tactics coming into this World Cup. Not the best, but he's gotten his team to play some pretty good football. And Uzbekistan actually have some pretty underrated attackers as well. For me, another country that a lot of people are underrating is DR Congo. If you guys seen some of my recent reactions to the World Cup power rankings, a lot of different websites are putting DR Congo as one of the worst teams in this World Cup. For me, that's far from the truth. I think DR Congo are a top 5 team in Africa. I think they have a very, very good squad. They have a great defense that's being led by Mbemba. And in the attack, they have players like Bakambu. They have players like Johan Wissa. They have some very, very good players that can really punish you. But the two favorites are definitely between Colombia and Portugal. And after recent games, I think the favorite to finish in first place is Portugal. If you look at Colombia, yes, they are a very good team. In South America, they're incredible. In the qualifiers, they finished in 3rd place, and they're a very, very strong team. But in recent games in the international break, we saw them lose against Croatia, and then they lost against France's B team. These were two very, very poor results for Colombia. And I do feel like Colombia have a good squad, especially in the attack with players like James Rodriguez, Arias, Luis Diaz, Luis Suarez. But the one thing that they really lack is the clinical finishing capability. I feel like all of these attackers aren't clinical enough, and we saw that in their game against Croatia, where they had loads of shots, a lot of shots on target, but they just couldn't put any of them away except for one. So I do feel like that is a struggle for Colombia, and in that same sense, Portugal don't have those same problems. Now, obviously in the international break, they didn't perform that well against Mexico, even though they were playing with a lot of their bench players. But I still feel like Portugal are a very, very strong team. And in the attack, that is arguably their most deadly area of their team. Obviously, they have Cristiano Ronaldo, but even some of their other players like Trincao is having a great season with Sporting. If you look at a player like Pot is also having a good season with Sporting. Obviously, they have Ricardo Horta, who's been great with Braga, Rafael Leao, who's always a good player, and behind them, Bruno Fernandes has been one of the best players in the Premier League this season. I don't think any of these teams can stop that attack. For my Group K predictions, I'm going to predict Uzbekistan in last place, DR Congo in 3rd place, Colombia in 2nd place, and Portugal obviously in 1st place. And finally, the last group we have is Group L with Croatia, England, Ghana, and Panama. Starting off with Ghana, because for me, I think they've been really, really poor recently. And heading into this World Cup, I think they're arguably the most unprepared team in the world. Obviously, they weren't playing in the AFCON because they missed it. If you look at their recent international friendlies, we saw them lose against Japan, South Korea, South Africa, Austria, and Germany all in a row. So they have not been good at all. They haven't kept a clean sheet in any of their recent games. And they just recently sacked their manager as well. Guys, they're hiring a new manager less than a month and a half before the World Cup. So for me, Ghana are 100% finishing this group in last place. A pretty underrated team for me is definitely Panama. I feel like a lot of people don't put enough respect on Panama's name. Now, in the last international break, we saw them play 2 games against South Africa, which I thought was a little bit strange, but they were pretty good in both those games. They got a draw and they also got a win. And in general, in recent games that they played against other CONCACAF teams, they've been surprisingly good. Now, for me, the top 2 teams in this group will definitely be Croatia and England. And I feel like over recent years, they've been this narrative that Croatia, for some reason, have an aging squad. And for me, yes, I see that. I see how some of their better players are getting up there in age. But with that being said, Croatia have great youth development. Their youth players are playing all across Europe. And I feel like Croatia, for such a small country, they have some of the best youth development in the world. Even a player like Matanovic, who I'm a big fan of, he's playing for Freiburg. He's a young Croatian attacker, very, very tall. Did you see that goal that he scored in Freiburg's game against Celta Vigo? That goal was crazy. But England are definitely the favorites for this group. England have been the favorites to win many competitions in recent years. Obviously, they still haven't got a trophy since 1966, but they are definitely one of the favorites in this World Cup. They have a very strong team, a great attack, a great midfield. But for me, probably the biggest weakness with England's team is their defensive lineup, their center backs, their full backs. I feel like Thomas Tuchel doesn't really fully know what his best England lineup is, which is a little bit concerning only a month before the World Cup. But as for my Group L predictions, I'm going to go with Ghana finishing in last place, Panama in 3rd place. Croatia and England, I think, might be tied on points, but I do think England will get the better of Croatia on goal difference. So I'm going to go Croatia in second and England in first place. And that's the end of this video. Those were my updated World Cup 2026 group stage predictions. Like I said at the start of this video, I will be uploading a part 2 to this video next week, which will be my knockout stage predictions. And obviously, if you guys agree with my group stage predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree, which I'm pretty sure most of you will, remember to leave your group stage predictions down below and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. As always, if you've been enjoying all of this World Cup content, remember to subscribe to the channel to help me hit 8,000 subscribers. And if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.